That's why you're saying scrap it all together.
I know, Brenda, and before people on the left say, my gosh, that heartless Gary Smith, how can you scrap the minimum wage? I went around and searched to see if any other developed country scrapped the minimum wage. In fact, Switzerland has no minimum wage. Now, look, it's interesting. Switzerland's unemployment rate is 3%. So you say, well, surely then they have a high poverty rate. No, their poverty rate is less than half ours at 7%. Ours is about 16%. In fact, California, which has a higher than the $7 per hour minimum wage at $8, has a 23% unemployment rate. And oh, by the way, Switzerland has the highest wealth per capita in the world. My gosh, if Switzerland can do it, doesn't it make sense that we should try it?
Well, Chuck, what do you think about that?
Well, that's where I keep all my money. That's over in Switzerland. I'm sure that's the reason why everybody's like that. But the facts are the facts. The problem with this CBO is it said might. It might be 500,000 jobs. It might be 200,000. It might be 1 million. Papa used to say might's on a chicken's butt. Here's the facts about what that is. The facts are they would lift 900,000 people out of poverty and give 25 million Americans a raise. I realize that ain't how corporate America works. You used to be able to pay them what you want to pay them, but that's the facts, and it would be good for America.
Well, John, if you increase the price of something, don't you decrease demand?
Yes, I'm still confused about the mites on a chicken butt. I don't know much about chickens.
You're from Texas, all right?
Hey,
you should know these
things. Chuck and I speak the same language. I'm just kidding. Look, I'm not for dropping the minimum wage, but I'm not for raising it arbitrarily. Why $10? Last year was $9. I'm for linking it to something like inflation and a basket of wages so it goes up or down according to what the market should bear, and to take it out of politics and unions' hands and quit making it a political debate.
Jonas, what do you think? Get rid of it?
First of all, Japan has really low unemployment, and they've got crazy unions and labor laws and minimum wages, and you can't really look at what another country does. You have to look at what happened in America, and we don't really know. The CBO thing, to guess point, is a guesstimate. It could be 0. It could be 1 million people out of work. We have to almost do it and have an expiration date to see what happens. But Gary's right in the sense that we don't need it because the states have one, and that would almost be more constitutional let them set it because they could set it based on local cost of living. But I will give you a reason for it that makes no economic sense. There's an element of fair perception of fairness, and they can't capture this in the CBO report. But, when you look at, the revolutions through history in Russia and France, it's because they didn't have labor laws, and people thought they were getting a raw deal. I wonder if they would still have royalty in Russia if they had minimum wages at their time. Most of the countries that have royal families have minimum wages because that's how you keep the royal family in place and avoid a revolution and avoid a maximum wage, which we don't have in America, which is much worse for the economy.
Okay.
We don't have wealth taxes. We don't have a 90% top tax bracket. Don't bring those back, so give people a minimum wage to do that.
Okay, Jonas, we're going to keep that clip. This makes no economic sense. Okay,
right,
Tracy, go ahead.
But what makes no economic sense is that we actually do studies to figure out that this makes no economic sense. I mean, they could just really pour a cup of coffee and watch us on Saturday mornings, because we've been saying all along that raising the minimum wage just hurts jobs. It doesn't create them. Look, I get the notion that everyone needs a starting point, but that is what it is. It is a starting point. You should not aspire to go to the grave making minimum wage. And so we really need to get people to think big picture around here. Forget the minimum wage. That gets you in the door, man. I want my kids to want to be the next Steve Jobs, not the guy that makes minimum wage till death do us part.
Okay, last word. Thanks, guys. And